Hello, we are back with Kat and Sarah. We go deep. And today we're talking about what the fluff do we know? And we keep finding that we know less and less than we thought we knew. So Kathleen, start us off with what you were telling me before.
Well, uh, you know, I was really beating myself up for things that I wasn't doing around my business. And what I started seeing was that I was so identified. I still am, okay, with this role. I'm a coach, I'm a healer, I'm an entrepreneur, all those things. And there just was something happening where I wasn't doing things that someone in that role should do, would do, I used to do, right? In growing a business. And I started questioning that from a different place. Instead of saying, why am I not doing that? How can I figure out how to get myself to do those things? I started thinking like, could there be some intelligence in me not doing those things that a person growing a business would do? I just got really curious. But what came out of it was I started seeing that defining myself by that role so deeply ingrained in me. And I started seeing that is so not who I really am. That's what I do. Yeah, I show up and I do coach like things. I do entrepreneurial type things sometimes. And I'm finding myself doing them from a place of just being my true authentic self, like who I am. But when I first, well, I saw it on a deeper level a couple of weeks ago, and boy, it felt like the rug was being pulled out from underneath me. Like, if I'm not that, if I'm not an entrepreneur, and I'm not a life coach business consultant, you know, growing her business, who the fluff am I? And it was for a couple of days, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be awful. And instead, it was liberating. It was freeing. It just allowed me to have this being with myself as not that all this time that I thought that's who I was. And it's safe to not be that because we've talked on this podcast about who we really are. Oh my goodness. So I don't know. That was a mouthful, wasn't it?
Well, as you talk, you just look like lit up from within, like a freedom of not, you don't have to have any roles, but if you want to go in and out of them, you can, like a fluidity of roles.
Yeah. Do you relate to that at all?
Yeah, interestingly, recently I had, I guess it would more accurately be like a series of insights. And I started to feel like everything on that level of the story of my life, like the roles, like coach, chiropractor, mother, those things, it was like everything melted. And I had an image of like the earth, the layers of the earth. And so the center part, the core, didn't change. And that would be like the constant core of me. And that just felt like a joy in being alive. Like there was just this core of a joy, like, I get to be here. That's so fun. But everything else felt really fluid, almost like a magma layer, like this, like there'd be volcanoes of roll, like solidifying and desolidifying. And sometimes I'm in a role as a mother, sometimes as a business person, sometimes as a chiropractor, sometimes as a coach, and just all fluidly moving and not stuck, or like it was all changeable and still is. Yeah.
Mm.
With that unchanging core inside.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it even occurred to me that that core feeling was like identity less. Like it didn't have an identity in the way we think of it. There was no gender, no race, no the part that's like where I'm from, or where my ancestors are from, or the fact that I'm female, or the fact that I'm a woman. That was all in the fluid part. The center core was just a feeling of like, hey, I'm alive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everything else was just like a step outside of that.
Yep. Yeah. I like the way you described it, and the fluidity of it, because it's been a while, but I would kind of feel like there were like these two separate operating systems. There was this awareness, this pure presence, this, when I was just quiet and my mind had quieted down, and then I felt like really aligned with that. Like, oh yeah, I know that I am that. But I have much more now of a sense of I'm all of that.
Hmm.
I am in a form. I am, there's energy has organized itself to all these cells that, you know, are organized in this thing called a body that I'm in. And I have a much more frequent experience of it all operating at the same time.
Hmm.
Like this, yep, I know that core. I know that's who I truly am. Because I used to feel like I kind of would sort of go in and out of that. But there's something about the untangling, of me being so identified with the role, that as that starts to dissolve and just look not very real, then, I feel this kind of integration of all of who I am.
Hmm.
And the feeling is, I guess, kind of like almost like a lucid dream, in a way, that I'm walking, I'm moving, I'm talking, I'm coaching someone, I'm inserting acupuncture needles, and yet the I amness, that core that you talk about, like, I feel that presence, that just awareness that doesn't have a role, a gender, an identity. Like, it just is. It is just, and then it's hard to describe it, but you know it. Like, you just know. So you know, who am I really is all of it to me. It's all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you'd said something earlier about sort of looking forward, like what are you building in your business? What do you, and it's kind of like, well, how do I know? What do I know? And I've been having a similar feeling where when I bring it back to the present moment, and in that moment, what do I want now? What do I want to do now? It's very easy and simple. It's like, well, I want to respond to that email now. I want to eat a banana now. And and it's interesting because I would have thought that that would mean there'd be no direction. There'd be no forming of like, how can you have a business when there's no like 5-year plan? There's no and it's interesting because you look back over a day or half a day and you're like, oh, well, there is a direction. I just don't always know it ahead of time. How interesting. It's like being open to how life moves you. That, yeah, life.
Yes, 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 yes. So yeah, I can imagine that our listeners are, their little brains are thinking right along the lines of what you just brought up. That, well, if I don't have a 5-year business plan, or if I don't have, this future event, that I'm working towards. And I mean, some things do take planning. Some things really do. But there's a freedom in really kind of being in the present moment. And you know what you want to do, what you want to get done. But I do think, and I know this from, myself, but from a lot of people that I work with, they're like, oh, no, can't go there, can't do that. I'm going to sit on the couch and eat bonbons all day. And that's what my grandma used to say. I don't know if anybody knows what a bonbon is. I've never had one, but I think it's sort of like a turtle. And probably we're not eating turtles here.
I think of it like a chocolate with a center in it. So you'd have a box of chocolates, a box of bonbons. I don't know.
Something. They taste good, whatever they are. They're yummy. But no, and I think when we're really present to who we are, what needs to get done gets done, because there are some things, right? When you're, a mom and a business owner, and there are those things. And then I love what you said, like you're trying to map out this narrow path sometimes. And without it, it's like, oh, I'm going to have no direction. And then if you look backward, if you kind of just do what moves you in the moment, there is a direction to it. And then sometimes there's not. Honestly, a lot of my days right now look pretty scattered. And I'm exploring that. So, and yet, if I look back to a year, I see, things happened. I accomplished things in my business. And it was less effortful than the way I used to operate my business, which worked, right? Which accomplished things. But oh my goodness, like there's so much fun, more freedom, more liberation, less stress than doing it the other way. So, hey, I'm going to be honest, like I'm still in a little exploration, experimental phase, because there is this little voice in my head goes, well, let's just see if that really works out so well for you. But it has been.
Well, yeah. And you were talking about how often we map out this really narrow path. And if we're so dedicated to that narrow path, we'll spend a lot of energy controlling and staying on it. And we got to do this. And we got to do this. And I find when you let go of that, the things that come up, you could have never imagined. And it's better. It's always better. And when you're open to, okay, maybe you have a direction, like I want to do blah, blah, blah. Yeah. When you're open to what shows up in life, yeah, sometimes you'll get there in the most interesting ways. Yeah.
This podcast is a good example of you and I getting together and saying, hey, I want to do a podcast. You want to do a podcast? Okay. Well, how do we do that? I don't know. Let's figure it out. Oh, let's sit down and have a conversation and record it and see how that goes. Then I remember after the first conversation, he was like, should we make it public? Well, I guess, why not? I was so glad you wanted to, because I was really a little nervous about it. And hey, a podcast happened. And how we show up every week, not knowing what the fluff we're going to talk about. And, hey, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but guaranteed there's going to be some people where one episode, one thing that we say in one measly episode, provides them with a spark or an insight that's really transformative. So, like even a podcast that doesn't really look like it has a direction. And I think it's going to be interesting to see as we hold this container very loosely, like where it leads us, where it goes. Who knows? But it's going to be cool, I think, because we're staying open to all the possibilities that we can't even think up in our little pea brains.
Yeah,
We're showing up and having fun. I am. How about you?
I am definitely showing up and having fun. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we definitely don't have a direction. We just show up and talk about whatever is on our minds that day, which is fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, did we talk about all the fluffing that we don't know?
Well, if we don't know, we probably didn't talk about something that we don't know. But what we did talk about, hopefully, will be interesting and helpful to someone. It was
Yeah,
for me.
was for me too. Yeah. Okay. So thanks for listening, everyone. That was We Go Deep with Kat and Sarah. Apparently we don't know anything. And we'll talk again next episode. Bye for now.
Bye.